name is Ashley Colville. I am a tutor at Planting Seeds Tutoring. Today, I will be explaining the factoring and formula methods of solving for quadratic equations. So here you can see the quadratic formula to solve your quadratic equation. So the equation that we're going to be using today will be, we will be using 8x squared minus 18x minus 5 equals 0. One thing to always remember is that you want to make sure your equation is set to 0. So if instead we were given 8x squared minus 18x equals 5, we want to make sure that we move that 5 to the other side of the equal sign and set it to 0. So that way everything is in its correct spot and we'll be able to solve and know that we are doing everything correctly. So I've color coded where everything needs to go to fit into the equation. So we have minus negative 18, and it has to be negative 18 because the way that it is in the problem is minus 18, so we have to keep it that negative. So then we're going to do plus or minus the square root of negative 18 squared minus 4 times a, which is our 8, times our c, which is negative 5. Remember, whatever that sign is in front of each number is the one that you want to make sure that you put in for your equation. And then that's going to be times 2. That's going to be divided by 2 times a, which will be 8. We want to make sure we set all of this to x, since that is what we are looking for. Okay, so with Pizza Pete, we have our 2 negative i's and our positive mouth. So that minus negative 18, we will scribble out a negative I and then the other negative I because we have 2 negatives there. So we're only left with a positive. So that becomes positive 18 plus or minus the square root of, okay, so the same thing is going to be there with our negative 18. That'll be negative 18 times negative 18, which will give us a positive 324 minus 4 times 8 times negative 5, and that total gives us negative 160. And then we're going to divide all of that by 2 times 8, and that gives us 16. Okay, I'm going to erase our little Pizza Pete buddy here. So 18 plus or minus the square root of, so our total of 324 plus 160 because you have a negative and a negative, so that will become a positive, and that will be 484, all divided by your 16. Okay, now here's where we're going to break up our x into the 2 equations. So we'll have 18 plus, so the square root of 484 will be 22. So 18 plus 22 divided by 16. And 18 minus the square root of 484, which is 22, divided by 16. Okay, so now we have 40 over 16, which will equal 2 1/2. Then this will be negative 4 over 16, which will equal negative 1/4. So now that we've done all of this, what we can put is, as our final answer, x plus 2.5 times x minus 1/4. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and erase all of this to use the factoring method to solve this same equation. So the first step that we want to have in our factoring is we're looking for how to fill in this same answer that we got here, except the only thing is we don't know what that answer is. So how we're going to do that is we're going to look for the factors of our number in our C space and our A space, because we need them to work together to find our B. Okay, so with 5, I do a T-chart, so that means I'll go 1, 2, 3, on until, and then I usually stop around 10. Since I know that 5 is prime, I'm just going to go ahead and stop here, do my 1 times 5, and then, so 2 times, well, there's nothing, 3 times, there isn't anything, so then I would go all the way down to 5 and 1. So that puts me back at where I started, so I know I'm finished. And now with my 8, I'm going to do the same thing. So we're just going to do 1, 2, 3 again. Usually I do go farther. However, I do know also off the top of my head where I'm going to stop with 8. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now because of my math facts. Okay, so I know 1 times 8 will equal 8, and 2 times 4 will equal 8. And then 3 times, there isn't anything to equal 8. And then we're back to 4 times 2, which is why I didn't need to go past my 3. So what we want to do here is figure out what of these factors that we've just found or what we're looking for. This can be very daunting, as there a lot of times are a lot more numbers that you'll be working with once you've done your factoring. But don't let that scare you. Using my factoring technique of just going 1 through 10 on one side and then filling in your other side will really help you with narrowing down your options quickly. Okay, so we want these to work together to be able to equal our negative 18. So we're thinking in our brain, where do I go from here? How am I going to equal 18? So we're just going to start plugging in numbers. We know that our only option is 1 and 5 with our factoring of 5. So we know that one of them is going to start with minus 5, minus 1, and then plus 5. Okay, so now we need to figure out what's going to go in front of our x's. Is it going to be 1 and 8 or 2 and 4? So the reason it will be 1 and 8 is when we're doing our foiling. That will give us too big of a number when we do 8x times 5. Because what that gives us is, excuse me. Okay, so now we're going to solve this the factoring way. This way can get confusing when you have numbers that have a lot of factors in them. Hopefully this way that I'm showing you how I make a factor table will help with narrowing down your options. So with 5, I know that that's prime based on the math facts that I've practiced. So that will be 1 times 5 only. With my 8, what I would normally do is I like to put on my left side numbers all the way 1 through 10, because that helps me figure out where I'm going to be repeating. So here, 1 times 8 is what will equal 8. 2 times 4 is what will equal 8. 3 doesn't work because there isn't anything I can multiply 3 times to make 8. And then I'm back at 4. And 4 times 2 is going to equal 8. But I already have that one written down right here. So now I know that I can stop. So having done all of this, what I'm now going to do is think, okay, how am I going to get my A of 8 to work with my C of 5 to equal negative 18x? Well, so what I have to remember is how I'm going to write out this equation so I can solve it by FOILing. So because we know that there's an 8 in our A spot instead of a 1, there's going to have to be a number in front of our x. So we have that minus one of our numbers, and then we're going to have it plus one of our numbers. So the way we know what we're going to want to do is, we're looking at it, we know that 18 is going to have to be, is probably going to need to be a big number that will be negative, and the smaller number will be positive. With our 5, we only have the options of 1 and 5. So that's going to be what goes in to these blanks right here. So we're thinking about that, and then we need to look at, are we going to use 1 and 8 or 2 and 4? So if we did 8 times 5, that would be too much, because that would go all the way up to 40. And we need this to stay around 18. So we look at 4 times 5, okay, that gives us 20. That's a lot closer to where we want to be, and so that's what we're going to choose to try first. Okay, and so then when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, okay, I have to think I want my 8 to stay positive, but I want my 18 and my 5 to be negative. So you're going to write it as plus 1 and minus 5. Now you have to figure out what goes in to these new blanks. So we're thinking, and so what we're going to try is, we're going to try with the 4 next to our 1, and we're going to try the 2 next to our 5. The reason we're going to go ahead and try it this way is because we're looking at how we want things multiplied, and this was the best guess to go with first. If you tried it flipped, you will find out, thankfully very quickly, that that's not the step that you want to take. So then you would want to keep your 1 and your 5 in those same places, because we already determined earlier that this is the pair that we want, because that'll give us totals that are close to our 18. So now we look at this and we're thinking, okay, this doesn't look anything like the answer we got using the formula. Okay, so we're going to set them both equal to 0. So now we have 2x minus 5 equals 0, and we have 4x plus 1 equals 0. So we're going to get our x by itself by adding 5, so they cancel, and adding 5 here, and then subtracting 1 in this problem. So those cancel, so now we have 4x equals negative 1, and 2x equals 5. Now we divide. So our x equals 5 over 2, and this x equals negative 1 over 4. So when we put 5 over 2 into a mixed number, that gives us 2.5. And now x equals the same numbers as it did here. And that is how you would solve using either factoring or the quadratic equation formula to find what your equation becomes. Either one of these ways works. It depends on what you're the most comfortable with and how you will succeed moving forward with quadratics. So thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in additional tutoring or test prep, be sure to sign up on our website at plantingseedstutoring.com and use my referral code Ashley20 to receive 10% off of your tutoring package. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.